now, Papadimitriou, Innovation Scout and founder of Intelligencr, will be talking to us about innovation in emerging markets. Thank you.
Hi there. Hello. So, I'm so happy to be back here in Beirut. I used to live in Cyprus, and the flight is only like 25 minutes, and I would come here all the time. And it's been now 2 years I'm not here. Guys, can you just put the slides on the big screen? Thank you. So Papadimitriou, as you can hear, it's a Greek name, but as you don't know, I was born in Switzerland, and my mother was from Finland. So basically the story is, as a Greek, I dodge my taxes. As a Swiss, I hide my money. And everybody knows that in Finland, you know, Santa Claus is living in Finland. So basically I'm funding Christmas. I'm funding Santa Claus. That's my life. So, is that working? We'll see. Yep. This is Shinjuku Station. Shinjuku Station is in Tokyo, where I used to live in a past life. There is 4 million people going into that station every single day. It's basically your entire country going to the single station, train station, every single day. What I love about it is that it's, for me, it encapsulates technology and where we're going today. It changes, you show people going their ways, you show technology appearing, show people going, finding a map and trying to go to the next level. This is exactly what technology is all about today. I was living next to that station, and I was trying always to get my plane, and there was, again, 4 million people a day. So try to imagine how you can make your way in such a big station. And that was what I was doing today. This is a little bit the arc of the story I'm going to tell you today. What I'm going to talk about is technology, people, and what we do with both of it. So we do systems. These are the 3 keynotes I will mention today. This thing is really not working well. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm trying to approach. Maybe I'll go on this side. Plus, it's my better side, right, for the photograph. Yeah, Dan. Is that true? Yeah, thank you. So we create technology, right? The first thing that, so it's always been the case. We always had going faster. It seems today that we've been going faster and faster. But actually, if you look at the history of technology, we've always been going faster from the ancient times to today. Since the 50s and the invention of the transistor, we've been going even faster. And I'm keep clicking. You see, that's technology where it doesn't work. And we've been going even faster. And every decade or so, we had a change of pace. Every decade or so, as you can see there, we went from the mainframe computer to the PC to the web, and now we're entering that where everybody calls the age of mobility, or the mobile phone, or the age of Internet of Things. All this, the term doesn't really matter. What matters is that it seems to be going faster, but actually, when you think about it, it's not. It's just a normal pace of technology. It's the Moore's law. Processing power is going faster and faster. This is why, for some of you, like some of you guys might be as old as I am, and you remember all these devices from a TV. I mean, you still have a TV, to a gaming platform, to a camera. Now everything is into one single device. What that means is that technology is actually a deflation game. Deflation is falling prices. Prices are falling, and everything becomes a single device. This is simply the history of technology. We build innovation on others people's innovation, and it seems to be going faster. But it's actually just following the same curve since the beginning of time. I look great when I do this, right? Imagine in your pocket right now, your phone is actually more powerful than the entire Apollo program. It has more processing power than the entire Allied forces in 1945. And obviously, you use your phone to watch cat videos. This is technology today. This is deflation. This is the first part of technology, of innovation. Technology is going faster, and the deflation is what matters. The second part is what you see when people look at this. They see somebody on a swimming pool, and I wish, and I will probably try to do that here in Beirut. They look at the technology. What I see here is a platform. What is a platform? Is you build innovation upon other people's innovation. Most people think that innovation just arrives by itself. Actually, you keep building upon it. When you think about stuff like very simple, like Facebook. Facebook is actually going, because the internet was invented and then the web was invented and then other technologies, one after the other, were invented on top of each other, and this one just doesn't. Yeah, guys, when I do that, you press the button, okay? Yeah, so do that very fast now. And so WhatsApp, all these technologies go actually very, very quickly. One more, guys, so that's a platform. Innovation is about platforms. We build stuff on top of each other. And then innovation is about networks. This is the very big difference from all the past, is that now we all can be connected very easily. We can suddenly be connected to somebody, and I've heard somebody mention the term diaspora. Suddenly the world is actually really becoming smaller and flatter. This is not anymore just something out of books, and you probably see that every day. So these are the three main drivers of innovation. Deflation, so processing power, platforms, building up on each other, and networks. And we all become nodes on a network. That's the thing. You all have something in your pocket, and we all become nodes in a single network. In economics, there's this theory called network effect, which basically states that the more people use something, the more valuable it becomes. And this is exactly what is going on currently with all these three drivers. Suddenly, everything becomes more powerful. That's another city I lived in. I lived in Manila in the Philippines, an emerging country, or frontier countries for those who prefer that term. We are people. We tend to always look at technology because technology is sexy. Obviously, you have an iPhone 6 or whatever, and you look at it because it's sexy. The point is, it has to be made by and for people. And go. Yeah, that's too slow. Sorry for that, guys. In Greek, because I'm Greek, I can play with that. In Greek philosophy, we have four things: logos, ethos, pathos, and mythos. Basically, the way we describe ourselves is science, facts, ethos, which are customs to what we do. As Lebanese, you have your own customs. As a Greek and Swiss and Finn, I guess I have some. Pathos, your passions, and that creates your myth. For a very long time, a myth was religion. And it's still to this day, but we're seeing it, we're feeling that a lot of things are changing, and we're feeling that people are trying to find other ways to relate to each other. The other part is that the first part here, the science has become more and more prevalent, which is great, in the last 50 years. So we have put as a society an emphasis on science, and we lost the emphasis on myth, on the meaning. What does it mean? Why are we here? Why are we doing all this together, or sometimes, sadly, not together? And at the same time, you have more and more information. That's the line I tried to draw there. You have all this information coming together at a time where people do not find a way to find meaning. This is a traditional way of looking at the past 50 years of generation. You know, the guy who invented the term Gen X, or Generation X, kind of didn't figure out that at some point we're going to be running out of letters. That's where we're arriving now. We're at Gen Z, and we don't know what we're going to call the next one. I don't really like this way of displaying generations, because for me it doesn't really mean anything. What's actually important is the way you were born. When you were born, and I know that in Lebanon you had a very different setting than me being born, for instance, in Switzerland. But you're born in an economical setting, in values of a society. And this is what actually matters for innovation. What are your beliefs and your hopes for the future? And what happened, please go, thank you. What happens now, and that's very interesting. The kids that are born today are born in a world of uncertainty. It used to be a period of bliss. I mean, besides the Cold War, and I know again, because I know you had a lot of troubles here in Lebanon, but for a very long time, people were very hopeful about the future, and we all thought that our kids would have a better future than ourselves. This is the first generation, when you track sentiment across nations, people think and believe, and no matter if it's true or not, people think and believe that their kids would not have as a bright future as they themselves had. So that changes, because suddenly the way they're brought up is slightly different. And at the same time, you can see that on the line over there. At the same time, what happened is that the emerging countries, this is the share of GDP in the world, the the share of emerging countries has overtaken the share of developed countries. So this is a generation, the kids born today, that are born in a period of uncertainty. We don't know where we're going. There's lack of meaning. There's a lot of more information. And at the same time, they are suddenly, especially in the West, feel completely disrupted. Because they're like, we don't have it as good as we used to have. So basically the West, to call it like that, is the one being disrupted. You are not, I mean, you are in the West in some ways for many reasons, but you're an emerging country or a frontier country. You are the one disrupting this traditional West that I'm talking about. And the last thing is, so what happens when you're a kid and you're born in a world where you can connect to everyone with these networks and these platforms and this very cheap access to technology? You define yourself totally differently from the way we define ourselves. You find tribes. Somebody, again, it was mentioned, the term diaspora was mentioned before. This is a tribe. You're able to find tribes where it can be defined completely differently than we're defined up to now. You don't actually need to be defined by the fact that you were born in a village, that you had this type of interest. You can be anyone you want, anywhere you want. You can also become more nomad. And again, that's something that's very prevalent in Lebanon, I know, because as a Greek, that's the same thing. We used to be, you know, we used to have a fleet, and we used to go all around the world to actually sell stuff. You know, we were countries that were looked towards the sea. That's the thing that happens with the internet suddenly. People can look towards the sea. People can actually do stuff that they couldn't do before. And that's changing the way they define themselves, and that's changing the way they will innovate. And they are actually already innovating. So, technology, people, we create technology, we are people. But what we do with that is we create systems. Because we always like to create systems. That's the basis and the foundation of innovation. That was Tokyo, by the way, another time. Shibuya Crossing. Sorry for that, guys. These are, for me, the 5 most important points that will change the way society and the world is actually thinking of itself. First, there's a huge clash between old power and new power. And you can feel that. When you are born with no boundaries, when you are born with this feeling of being able to do whatever you want, connecting with whoever you want, finding other people and cheap access to technology, suddenly the way you're thinking about innovation is extremely different from the way the previous generations thought about innovation. The thing is, and I'm sorry because I know some of you are here, the thing is, a lot part of the administration of the government is still old power. You can feel that maybe if you read the news, you can feel these kind of tensions when you read about Uber going against the taxi industry. That's exactly the type of tensions you have. But these tensions are going also differently because for a very long time, we thought, assumed, or perceived that both corporations and countries and governments were going to fix our lives. The government will fix our life, and the corporation will give us jobs. And that's not the case anymore. I come from a country, Greece, when you have 55% of youth unemployment. Do you really think that people believe that somebody will fix that? No, they're taking the destiny in their own hands. Hence, this really, really big shift and this really big tension that we're seeing all around the planet because suddenly you have this new generation that wants to do something differently than the old generation. All generations did. It's not something new. This always happened. The thing is, this time they have tools that are extremely cheap. In your pocket, you have something that allowed mankind to go to the moon and to win the Second World War. Imagine this. Old capital versus new capital. What I mean here is that for a very long time, capital, and still, was defined by labor and money, basically, right? So labor, when labor can be replaced by automation and algorithms are becoming better, labor, the value of labor, sadly so, becomes less and less. The value of traditional capital also becomes, on average, less and less, because now you can see that where the money is IDs. If you have an ID and you can leverage the tools, the processing power, the deflation, you can leverage the platforms and the networks, you can create something extremely quickly for very cheap. WhatsApp, that I'm sure a lot of people here use, WhatsApp was able to upend an entire industry, the SMS industry. By the time they sold to Facebook, there were only 50 people. Only 50 young people were able to reach the size of an entire industry that was created by corporations, monopolies sometimes, and government. 50 people. And they were created almost a decade ago. Imagine what this new generation will be able to do and append this way. An ID is enough now to actually change the world, It was not possible before. You still need capital, you still need money, obviously, and I'll come to that in a minute. But basically, the efficiencies are now at the margin. It has never been as easy to put an ID to life and to scale that ID. Next one, old business versus new business, obviously. Same rule apply. Again, I work with a lot of corporations, and it's fun to work with corporations. Not always, trust me, but I like to work with corporations. But then when I work with startups, I recently invested in the startups that do in San Francisco that does Internet of Things. When I see the way they work is that they say, you know what, the future is uncertain, but they bake that in. That's okay, that's the way they work. When I see how a corporation works, and that's in their DNA, the corporation wants to plan ahead, to understand how the futures will hold. Thus, all this industry of futurists that they hire because they suddenly want to know what happens. And sometimes they hire me, actually, and I'm not a futurist, trust me. I don't know what the hell is going to happen in even 2 days. But this is the thing, it's impossible. The world is becoming so complex that it's impossible to plan ahead. And corporations have these mindsets when most of the young people, because they are born in a world that's uncertain, what I said before, they don't have that mindset. And they can actually go and say, you know what, I'm going to embrace certainty. That's part of the way I do business. And this is why they go fast. They break things, they restart again. This is why the culture of failure is so strong with startups. Because uncertainty is part of their lifestyle. It's part of their mindset. It's not only something you hear in conferences, it's actually the way they think. It's impossible to manage information. To manage information. You can only process information. That's something else that startups have understood. There's so much information, you will never be able to manage it. You can process it, you can find the flaws and say, okay, the information goes this way. What happens when Uber, and again, and I'm not by far not the only company that is disrupting, but since you have it here, you can understand. Uber is just using platforms, networks, so using the fact that you have a phone in your pocket. It's using the information flows of all the cars that are in Beirut, the fact that somebody here, Ivan, wants to take a car, and he wants to have a car right now. This is how they track you. They are able to understand the flows of information and not just to manage information. Airbnb does the same thing. You can actually, if you want to find a loft in New York, they actually just try to understand the flow of information. Even Amazon does the same thing. That's the difference between old and new business. I just hinted at it, and that's actually more groundbreaking than most people assume. Old consumption versus new consumption. The way people perceive things is not the way that it used to be. It used to be that to define yourself as successful, you had to have a big car, a big house, and if you had a dog, the car would be a Volvo. That's how you would actually define yourself as being successful. That's reassuring, owning things. The thing is, when we reach a plateau in terms of owning things, and the new generation doesn't care about owning things because of what I just said. I want to have a driver that drives me tonight to a very good nightclub in Beirut. I order it from my phone. I have my private chauffeur. I want a loft in New York. I can have a loft in New York for 1 week. I only need the access to experience. I don't need to own a loft in New York, nor do I need to own a car with a chauffeur here in Beirut. So when you have all these access to experiences thanks to all these companies, leveraging again, deflation, networks, and platforms, when you have these technologies available to you as a consumer, you don't actually need to own that many things anymore. You can just basically rent the things you need at the time you need. It's extremely efficient because I need a car right now and I'll have it right now. But if you think a little bit more through, it changes the way that companies have to present you products and services to the consumer. Think about the examples I just gave. If you're in the car industry and you're selling cars, who are you going to sell cars to if nobody actually wants a car anymore because they can have their private chauffeur? You'll have to sell the cars maybe to the people, of course, that are drivers for Uber and other companies. But also you have to think the way you're actually going to create these products, because suddenly these products have to become more robust. Because if a car on average stays probably more than 90% in a parking lot. So it's not used that much. But of course, if that same car is used by a private chauffeur, it's keep being used. So the shift in mentality for the people offering products is to say, oh, we need to offer robust products. You know what? By the way, this is something that the emerging markets have always been doing. The emerging markets have that in their DNA. Because you had to work despite a lot of things. I heard before someone mentioning it was, hitting a wall. Because you had to fight this, you had to find ways to be more creative. You had to find ways to create products that were more robust, also cheap, and this is exactly where the rest of the world is going to. This is why I believe that emerging markets have a huge advantage in understanding the mindset and the framework of this new economy, especially this new consumption. You can teach the West a lot by actually just the things you're doing in countries like Lebanon, for instance. Sorry, I forgot to put my hand. I should dance, actually, would be better. Old countries versus emerging countries, obviously. That's what you heard the thread all through it. It's the West being appended by emerging countries. It's not only China. I mean, I go to China because I work for the launch of a mobile ecosystem in China right now. And I mean, if you have the chance, go to Shenzhen. Because honestly, then you'll understand what I just mentioned before. If you want to launch a product at scale, you can actually, in one day, have 10,000 units of anything, of really anything. So that's the thing. Again, as a young entrepreneur, you can go to Shenzhen, you want to create physical product. This is the big shift. It used to be that we were talking, and I heard the term digital. Yeah, digital is still a term, but it's digital, it's just a term we use here just to understand each other. But this permeates everything. You can create any type of object, physical object, and sell it extremely quickly. You can scale it in China right now, in other countries soon. You can scale extremely fast. And at some point, you might have a 3D printer in your home. You can actually develop the product yourself from your home. People talk about the sharing economy, and maybe you heard that term. I actually think it's very capitalistic, because what you become your own mean of production. You can create something extremely cheaply and scale it extremely, extremely cheaply. Obviously, because I never lived in Lebanon, but I lived in emerging countries, what I'm saying is very hopeful, but you still have a lot of issues to deal with. One of the issues, obviously, is transparency, and the fact that a lot of emerging countries usually correlate with a high rate of corruption. This is something that is actually going against. This is also something that's changing, because when you see, again, you have access to information, so a newer generation does not accept as easily the fact that a country is not transparent. They want to actually be able to enable transparency. So the new rules for business and the new rules for countries are pretty simple, actually. I know there's a big talk, and some rules might sound too easy to say, but the rules of this distributed power are thus. First, you have to enable uncertainty. You have to not only embrace and accept it, but enable uncertainty. If you accept and enable uncertainty, you have a chance to win. You have to enable decentralization. I actually believe, in terms of countries, the countries that win are the US, Germany, Switzerland. Why these countries? And not because I was born in Switzerland, because they're highly decentralized. Because you don't have a single state of power. When you have the internet that kind of distributes the power the way it does, countries that already have the mindset of distributing powers, and companies that already have the mindset of distributing powers, are the ones who are the most well equipped to win in this new type of economy. Enable simplicity. People want, again, they want simple things. This is the way you're going to win. They want simple things. They want a way that is simple. When you see, again, a few startups you've heard, WhatsApp, I was mentioning, WhatsApp does only one thing. It allows you to communicate with each other. It does it very well, but it does only one thing. So, and I'm not saying that it's a one-size-fits-all. I'm not saying that all companies should only do one thing. But if you're simple, people understand you. We are overloaded with information, but if you have a simple proposition, and that's obviously very valuable for startups, and that's what we always say to startups, the ones that advise at least, and you hear that in conferences, but even for larger corporations I work with, I say give them a single value proposition. Make it simple, and people will adopt it. Enable diversity. Sorry guys, I'm a man as well. The century, and probably the millennium, belongs to women, not us anymore. In the next 10 years, there will be 1 billion women entering the workforce on this planet. 1 billion women. The world is changing extremely fast, and women will be the key driver in this next century, I believe. I told you I'm not a futurist, but I believe that. And I believe you cannot just not start enabling diversity. You cannot not just start actually making, and not just have nice speeches about it, but do something about it. I know it's cultural, I know it's difficult, I know it's not all the countries have been, I lived in Japan. I mean, talk about diversity in Japan, it's really actually kind of bad. But if I look at it, the companies are the most successful are usually very diverse as well. They try their best. Enable flaws, same thing. Understand, see the information, don't try to manage it, try to process it, try to actually interface it, and this is how you're going to win. And especially, enable meaning. I told you, we're looking for meaning. We don't know where we're going. People are driven by two things, hope and fear, love and mortality. Always. It's always been the case, and it will always be the case. When you have all this information around us, we have all these things happening at a very fast pace around us, what we want is meaning. That applies to a government with its citizens, that applies to companies that want to make a customer happy. We always hear, oh, create happiness. But that's actually true. Even as a brand, you can create happiness because you give them meaning, even if it's a fleeting moment. I'm not saying you're going to change their lives forever, but for a fleeting moment, you give someone meaning. This is, in this world of this new economy, this is how you win, by enabling meaning. Oh, yep, my bridge doesn't matter now anymore. Sorry for that. So, if I go back, we go, try to summarize what I said. We go to a world of conformity, to a world of divergence. You have to accept divergence. And when you look at education in particular, which for me is the most important thing that a government can do, when you look at education, it still teaches conformity. It teaches you the same things to all the kids at the same pace, or more or less. We have to enable diversity, divergence. We're a world of different people, and that's okay. And the fact that we have this distributed power will only augment this feeling of divergence. So you have to be ready for that. If I come back to my story, when I was in that Shinjuku station every day trying to make my way, I have one advantage. I'm tall. Of course, in Japan, I was kind of very tall, actually. But you know what? When I was walking the station, I was seeing the people, and I was trying to make my way, and I was like, oh, there are less people over there. I'm going to walk this way, oh, this way. And I learned ways to go extremely quickly to change my trains. And as I did that, what I was doing is managing information flaws. So if you want to succeed, please stand tall. Thank you.